The President of Kenya Institute of Planners and your council members, representatives from government, fellow participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you very much, the moderator, for that kind introduction. That was very generous. I'm not used to getting such introductions, so thank you so much. As I wait for my presentation to go up, I want to thank the Kenya Institute of Planners for the invitation to AGRA. When we received the invitation at first, we were a bit surprised, but pleasantly surprised, because we were like, okay, so what does the Institute of Planners have to do with food systems? What does it have to do with agriculture? And as we read through the program and read the invitation, we were pleasantly surprised, and we are happy that you included food systems on the agenda, because many of us, forgive my ignorance, usually when we hear about planners, the last thing we think about is food. We actually think about architecture plans, urban planning, and many other things, buildings and stuff like that. So to bring the discussion on food systems, that is commendable. So we thank you so much. I am here to represent our Vice President for programs called Professor Boga Hamadi, who should have been here with us, but he sends his apologies. And so he asked me to stand in his shoes. And before I talk about, I know the session is about lessons that we've learned from 18 years of transforming African food systems, which is actually the same period that AGRA has existed. AGRA was established in 2006. So I wanted to use just a few minutes to tell you briefly about AGRA, so that we are all on the same page. So AGRA was established in 2006 by the late, following a call from the late Kofi Annan, who was the Secretary General of the UN, who reached out to different world leaders and appealed for starting a unique Africa Green Revolution that is tailored to the needs and aspirations of the diverse continent, recognizing the importance of sustainability. And that was in 2004 in Addis Ababa, and 2 years later, in 2006, AGRA was established. At that time, it was established, and we were called the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. That's our former name. Currently, now we are called AGRA, Sustainably Growing Africa's Food Systems. It's just AGRA. No abbreviation, no anything, it's just AGRA. But originally the intention was to bring about a unique green revolution in Africa. Because this was in recognition of the fact that unlike Asian countries, Latin America, and the Middle East, that Africa was facing unique challenges in its journey for a green revolution. We are one continent that relies on rain-fed agriculture. We are one continent that our smallholder farmers, our agriculture is dominated by smallholder farmers who grow diverse crops, and they also face many other challenges. We are also one continent where we have more people that believe in religion than science. And so you are going to have, for instance, smallholder farmers paying their tithe in churches, in places of worship, but they might never pay for training. They might never pay for extension, for agriculture extension. When you call them for agriculture extension, they need to be served lunch, they need allowances, they need to be paid to learn. But when they go to places of worship, where lunch is not served, they actually touch their pockets and pay. So matters of faith are actually more pronounced than matters of science. And that's our footprint. We are currently in about 15 countries, but those are the countries where we are mainly present. The map is not very up to date. We are also in Zambia. We have also been in South Sudan and many other countries. And we are also present in Kenya, where we are headquartered. AGRA is one organization that is registered in the US, but headquartered in Africa. We are headquartered here in Kenya. And this organization was started for Africans to be led by Africans. And our vision is to reduce hunger, improve nutrition, and adapt to climate change. And our mission, we believe in being a catalyst and working with other partners to bring about the change that we want. And so let me talk about briefly about the lessons that we have learned from our 18 years of existence. So they are highly summarized there. Those are just high-level statements, but I'm going to be briefly talking about some of them. So one of the lessons that we've learned is that to transform food systems, to bring about an inclusive agricultural transformation, you need an integrated approach. You need an approach that works with different ecosystem partners, both at the national level, at systems level, but also at the farmer level. Because transforming agriculture, you need different actors. You need input service providers, you need agro-dealers, you need financial institutions to provide finance, you need SMEs to do the offtake and processing. You need the government to create an enabling system, policy environment. You also need last mile delivery agents, extension agents, village-based advisors, community extension workers, and so many others across the value chain. And you cannot do it alone. You need an integrated approach across the value chain. We have also learned that government commitment and vision is very critical in transforming Africa food systems. We have seen examples of countries like Rwanda, countries like Ethiopia, which have been consistent in allocating a significant portion of their national budget to agriculture. And we've seen that in those countries, there is a lot of transformation that is happening in the agricultural sector. And so we think that is quite important. And when government is committed, it also has a way of unlocking private sector investment and attracting foreign direct investments. Partnerships, we've learned that resources usually are not the constraint. Many times we tend to think that resources are the challenge, but actually they are not the challenge. There are so many resources that are lying with different partners, different initiatives. But usually the challenge is how do we work together? How do we work together for the common good? How do we work together for the smallholder farmers? We have also learned that it's important to put smallholder farmers at the center, or broadly to put our beneficiaries at the center of everything that we do. At AGRA, we look at ourselves as being farmer-centered, but we know for us to be able to do that, we have to work with other partners like SMEs. But we have to understand what are the challenges that these beneficiaries are facing. Many times we design programs that are targeting food systems, but we actually don't talk to the beneficiaries. We don't talk to the smallholder farmers to understand what is it that they need. We don't talk to the SMEs to understand what is it that they need support about. We tend to assume that all that SMEs need, all the off-takers need is good quality produce. We tend to assume that all that smallholder farmers need is knowledge and capacity building. But that is not always the case. We need to make sure that if it is about the farmer, if it is about SMEs, then they have to be involved and we have to understand their needs so that we don't become like what happened in Malawi, where a president in the 1990s was campaigning and promised the whole nation that he was going to buy for them pairs of shoes when he's elected, and after he was elected, he never bought any pair of shoes. And when he was challenged, he actually said there was no way he could have known the sizes of shoes that the whole nation was putting on. And so no shoes were delivered. But it's because the stakeholders were never consulted. So we cannot design programs for farmers without farmers. We've also learned that, you know, to adopt inputs, for farmers to adopt inputs, they need functional markets. Farmers are not going to start using fertilizers and seeds, improved seeds, if they don't have access to functional and well-paying markets. We've also learned, again, that farmers, in many cases, we have promoted post-harvest technologies that are intended to promote food safety, like hematic bags, for instance. But one of the things we've seen in countries like Tanzania is that farmers adopt these technologies mainly for their own food security at the household level, not necessarily for sale. So the food that we eat, the food that the farmers eat at the household level is stored in proper bags, and they do not actually apply chemicals. But the food that they actually send to the market for sale, that's actually where all the chemicals are for most of the time, because the market is not willing to incentivize good quality. And the farmer, the first incentive is actually their own safety and fear of food chemicals. So who is teaching the farmer, for instance, how much chemicals, pesticides, they should be applying in the food that we eat, in the maize that we eat, in the ugali that we love? We have also learned that 95% of African farm output is sold to Africans. 95% of African farm output is sold to Africans, and only 5% is exported. When I say Africans, I mean the whole African continent. And this presents a number of opportunities for regional food trade between African countries. You can find some of these statistics from the Africa Agricultural Status Report, ASR 2024, which is published by AGRA. MSMEs also form 85% of the African private sector and food market in volume terms. That underscores the importance of SMEs in the food transformation journey. Again, you can find this in the Africa Agriculture Status Report 2024. Many times when we think about the effects of climate change, usually a lot of us, our thinking tends to shift. You know, the solution we tend to think about is we need irrigation. Because we are faced with challenges of climate change on our continent, we tend to think that all we need is irrigation, and that's what comes to mind quite often. But we've learned that irrigation is not always the solution to the climate change challenges that we face. In any case, it is very expensive. It's so long term. It requires a lot of resources to set up irrigation schemes. But we have seen that in some places, I don't know whether that is an indicator that my time is up, but we've seen in some places that you know, sustainable farming practices can actually help smallholder farmers in the short term to mitigate, in the short and long term, to mitigate the effects of climate change. we visited a farmer in Machakos, somewhere in Machakos. This is a maize, a beans farmer. And he has over 1,000 hectares of beans somewhere in Machakos. And when we visited, our first instinct was, where is your irrigation equipment? Where is your irrigation scheme? How do you manage this farm? Most of us know how dry Machakos is. And this farm actually told us, they said their biggest reservoir for water was underground, was in the soil, and therefore they did not need any irrigation. All they needed to do was to do mulching, to do cover cropping, to do ridges, to do practices that help to maintain soil moisture and water in the soil. And for me, that was quite revealing, because we can keep talking about irrigation, but there are no resources. There are other low-hanging fruits of solutions that we can undertake. So we've learned quite a number of issues. We also are advocating for a reduction in food losses. We've learned that 30 to 40% of our food is wasted per year, creating huge losses for the economy, for the country, because every time we lose food, we are losing the resources that went into the production of that food. So we need to reduce food losses, and also to feel for the farmer, because every time the farmer is losing food that they have produced, that is their capital. They are becoming very vulnerable in the end. And like they say in Kiswahili, that mtaji wa maskini ni nguvu zake mwenyewe. That the capital of a poor person is basically their labor, is their energy. So if they have harvested a crop, or a crop is lost on the farm, then they have lost all their labor or their sweat. Again, it is important to start from markets. If we are going to bring to commercialize agriculture, let's start from the market, understand what the off-takers want. Let's understand what the market is looking for, and let us help smallholder farmers to meet market demand. I see the moderator is keenly looking at me, and I want to use this last 1 minute to conclude and to thank you so much for inviting us to this conference, and for bringing issues of food systems on the table, and for picking interest in matters to do with food. At AGRA, we welcome partnerships. We believe in partnerships, and we believe that each one of us has got a role to play if we are going to bring about transformation in Africa food systems. I thank you very much.